the beginning, when the universe knew not even the shadow of time, there was only the immensity of light. In the midst of that resplendent eternity, one of the most powerful and feared beings was created. Michael, whose name in the celestial language means, "Who is like God?" Michael wasn't simply an angel. He was the fire on the sword, the roar of justice, the symbol of divine power in its purest form. He didn't possess Lucifer's seductive beauty, nor Gabriel's gift of wisdom. His essence was different. Michael was the reflection of duty, the unquenchable flame, the armed arm of the Creator. He was conceived to protect, to maintain the balance of the cosmos, and so that his gaze would reflect the incorruptible truth of God. Before the fall, heaven was an ocean of harmony. The angelic choirs sang without pause, the hosts danced across eternity, and the lights of the stars were the thoughts of the Almighty. But everything changed with the birth of doubt. Lucifer, the brightest of all, began to look in the mirror of his own glory. His brilliance was so great that he began to believe that this light came from himself and not from the Creator. It was then that the heavens trembled. And Michael, from his post in the heavenly army, heard the cry of pride for the first time. The air of paradise grew tense. What had once been music became silence. And from that silence was born the first war. Lucifer raised his voice against the throne, proclaiming his rebellion. He swore not to serve, and with him rose a third of the angels, those who had been seduced by his brilliance. Their wings, once white, turned dark as the depths of the abyss. Heaven had never known violence until then. And it was Michael who stood up, not out of vanity, but out of love for order. At the roar of rebellion, his voice resounded like thunder. Who is like God? That cry wasn't just a challenge. It was a judgment. The heavens opened, and the hosts of light descended behind him. It was the first cosmic battle, a war beyond the grasp of time and men. Flashes of fire crossed the heavens, the constellations trembled, and creation itself held its breath. Lucifer and Michael clashed like two opposing forces of the same principle. Pride versus obedience, the desire to be God versus loyalty to God. Ancient texts say that Michael's sword burned with the fire of the Spirit, a flame so pure that it cut not flesh, but essence. Lucifer, with his shield made of pride and his voice poisoned with beauty, promised freedom to the fallen. But Michael, without any pride, responded with his faith. And so, in a battle that mortals could only understand in this tale, the rebels were defeated. Michael did not destroy them, for destruction is the work of the void, not of light. Instead, he cast them out of heaven into the abyss we now know as hell. That moment sealed the fate of both. Lucifer became the adversary, the eternal enemy of light. And Michael was proclaimed Prince of the heavenly armies, guardian of the balance between good and evil, protector of souls, and defender of divine justice. But his victory was no cause for jubilation. The ancient apocryphal writings mention that after the fall, Michael wept, because deep down, those he had defeated were once his brothers, angels who danced beside him in the days of creation. His duty had triumphed, but his heart knew the weight of grief for the first time. From then on, Michael became the guardian of the threshold. His sword remains lit at the gates of Eden, guarding access to the tree of life. Every time evil threatens the balance, Michael descends, not as a god, but as an invisible force that guides the will of the righteous. The scriptures often present him in different guise, as the defender of Israel in ancient times, as the messenger who revealed prophecies to Daniel. and as the warrior who, at the end of time, will once again confront the dragon in the apocalypse. In the book of Daniel, it is said that Michael will rise in the last days to protect the children of the people when darkness covers the earth. In the Apocalypse of St. John, it is prophesied that he will once again confront Satan and his legions in a final war that will shake heaven and hell alike. But the most curious thing is that, in certain traditions, Michael is said to fight not only external evil, but also the evil that slumbers within every human being. Some mystics claim that when a soul dies, Michael is the first to appear, not as a judge, but as a guide. He weighs the soul on his luminous scales, not to condemn, but to measure the truth. If the deceased's heart retains the weight of goodness, the scale tips toward the light. If it is corrupted by evil, it descends into the shadows where souls must be purified. For this reason, in many cultures and eras, Michael's name has been invoked as a shield in battles, exorcisms, and prayers. He is the symbol of courage born of love, not hate. His fire purifies, not destroys. His justice does not punish, but restores balance. In Kabbalistic texts, he is associated with the element of fire, the sun, the color gold, and the number 6, a symbol of perfect harmony. Medieval magicians invoked him as the guardian of the East, bearer of the flame that illuminates spiritual paths. Even forbidden grimoires mention him as an impossible-to-corrupt presence, the angel whom not even Lucifer himself can deceive. In every age, his name has resonated like a sacred incantation against darkness. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Says one of the oldest prayers recited by exorcists since the dawn of Christianity. Be our protection against the snares of the devil. But the most enigmatic thing about Michael isn't his power, but his silence. Because while other angels are described as messengers, prophets, or protectors, Michael only appears in moments of crisis, when the fate of the world hangs in the balance. He is the executor of divine will, but he never speaks on his own behalf. He is the balance between compassion and justice, between love and war. There is a hidden legend, one of those not found in the canonical texts, which says that after Lucifer's fall, Michael descended to the edge of the abyss to observe it one last time. Lucifer, chained in his pride, looked at him with contempt and said, "Why you and not me?" And Michael, with his sword still burning, calmly replied, "Because I do not love myself more than I love God." Since then, those words resonate throughout the cosmos. And perhaps that's why, even today, when a soul struggles with its own shadows, it is Michael's fire that burns silently within. Because there is no greater war than the one that takes place within the human heart. And in that invisible battle, there is always a Michael fighting. That was just the first war, the one that shaped heaven and hell, good and evil, order and chaos. But it wasn't the last. Saint Michael the Archangel, he remains vigilant. Since the first celestial war, his presence has never left the realm of men. Although invisible, his fire has infiltrated the realms of time, empires that are born and die, and hearts that still retain the spark of faith. For his battle did not end with the fall of Lucifer. It merely changed its scene. After the banishment of the rebel angels, the universe experienced duality for the first time. Light and shadow, good and evil, love and hate. And in this fragile balance, God entrusted Michael with a deeper mission, to guard the border between both realms. From then on, the Archangel became a traveler between dimensions, an eternal sentinel who traverses worlds and eras, to keep divine order alive. He does not rest, because darkness does not sleep either. When humanity was created, Michael witnessed the birth of Adam. He watched as the breath of God ignited in man, a spark similar to that which once lit the wings of angels. And when the serpent, Lucifer in disguise, tempted man in Eden, it was Michael who stood between humanity and absolute damnation. It was he who, with his flaming sword, sealed the gates of paradise, not as punishment, but as mercy, so that man would not eat from the tree of life while corrupted by sin, and his damnation would not be eternal. Since then, humanity has walked under his luminous shadow. Every great spiritual battle in history, every war between faith and darkness, has had its echo in Michael's movements. In the book of Enoch, he is described as the merciful and patient, the protector of God's people and the enemy of the dragon. But what few know is that his struggle extends beyond religious symbolism. It is a silent war waged within the human soul. There is an ancient mystical teaching that the four great archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, represent the pillars of creation. Michael is fire, the flame of justice. Gabriel, the water that gives form. Raphael, the air that heals. And Uriel, the earth that sustains. But among them, Michael is the only one whose flame can destroy or purify, according to divine law. Therefore, when the balance is broken, it is his fire that descends first. Throughout human history, his appearances have been few, but decisive. Biblical and apocryphal texts depict him at times when the world teetered on the brink of chaos. It was he who appeared to Joshua before the conquest of Jericho as the Prince of the Lord's army. It was he who defended Moses when the devil attempted to claim his body. And it was he who revealed to Daniel the visions of the end times, promising that he would return when evil reached its peak. But his influence has not only been felt in sacred texts. In medieval times, it was said that the apparitions of the Archangel Michael marked the places where heaven met earth. Places of energy, temples, and mountains that trace an invisible line, known to the ancients as the sacred line of Saint Michael. That line, curiously, exists on the real map. From Ireland to Israel, a straight line connects 7 ancient sanctuaries dedicated to the Archangel. All aligned, all separated by the same distance. Mont Saint-Michel in France, the sanctuary of Gargano in Italy, the monastery of Mount Carmel in the Holy Land, all on the same invisible axis. Mystics claim that this line represents Michael's sword piercing the world, a warning to the enemy announcing that divine fire still watches over the earth. In each of these apparitions, Michael left a mark. In 490, on Mount Gargano, he appeared before a shepherd. The ground shook and a voice came from the void. "I am Michael, who is always in the presence of God." One of the oldest sanctuaries in Christianity stood there, and it is said that no demon can approach its doors. Medieval exorcists believe that the echo of that voice still resonated in the stones. Centuries later, on the French mountain that bears his name, history repeated itself. The bishop was awakened 3 times by the same vision, Michael ordering him to build a sanctuary on the rock that rose from the sea. The bishop hesitated, but the archangel returned with a severity that few human beings could bear. He touched his head with his burning finger, and the bishop awoke with a mark burned into his forehead. Thus was born the majestic Mont Saint-Michel, a place where the tides seem to obey the same will that moves the stars. Many believe that this mountain is a mirror of heaven, a fortress between 2 worlds, But the deepest part of Michael's mystery lies not in the temples, but in the battle that is not yet ended. In the Apocalypse, it is announced that he will once again confront the dragon, symbol of chaos and absolute evil. It will be the final war, when the heavens open and the stars fall like burning tears. And the dragon was cast out, that ancient serpent, called the devil and Satan, says the sacred text. And Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his followers. That battle will not be like the first. The first was a war for heaven. The last will be a war for souls, because the battlefield will not be in the firmament, but within each human being. Michael will not descend as a visible conqueror, but as a force that will awaken the hearts of those who still believe, of those who struggle against inner darkness. Every time a soul chooses light over shadow, every time someone defends the truth in the face of deception, it is said that Michael has won once again. There are those who claim that his fire is already burning in the modern world, that the times we live in are the prelude to his return. Wars, chaos, the silence of faith, the awakening of the shadows, all are signs of the apocalypse that the ancient prophets foresaw. And when the veil is torn apart, Michael's roar will once again shake the heavens with his immortal cry, "Who is like God?" Then the darkness will shake once more, and the dragon will know that his time has come. It will not be a war of swords or fire, but of truth versus lies. Michael will be the light that pierces the night, the fire that purifies corruption, the guardian of the souls that still burn with hope. They say that, in the end, when all is consummated and the universe returns to the silence of the beginning, Michael will be the last to extinguish his sword. He will lay it on the altar of the throne and say, "Justice has been done." And in that instant, the eternal fire will rest. But until that day, its shadow will continue to walk the paths of the world, in the temples, on the mountains, in the prayers of the faithful, and in the dreams of those still seeking redemption. Because Saint Michael the Archangel does not belong to the past or the future. He is the guardian of the present, the fire that never dies, the voice that, since the beginning of time, reminds men of a single truth. No light born of pride can survive the brilliance of God. And as long as there is a soul fighting against the darkness, Archangel Michael will continue to battle, invisible, relentless, and eternal.